Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephanie Bradley. I'm the Workforce and Education Senior Manager at TPMA, and welcome to Innovating and Modernizing the Public Workforce System webinar. Today, we have an excellent panel of individuals that are deeply involved in workforce development, and we're going to kind of go through and discuss all the excitement around the WIOA reauthorization. Throughout our session, our attention will really be centered on how we're going to talk about the innovative ways and the modernization of the public workforce system. So late in 2023, the House Education and Workforce Committee progressed a bipartisan reauthorization of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA, signaling a move towards modernizing the public workforce system. The unveiling of this legislation, named A Stronger Workforce for America Act, underscores the impact of our effective advocacy, elevating the enhancement of the workforce and adult education system as a primary focus for policymakers. The entire House's comprehensive consideration of this bill is scheduled for early of this year, 2024. This legislation encompasses crucial provisions aimed at modernizing the process for workers to access training funds, expanding the incorporation of digital skills, formalizing programs facilitating partnerships between community colleges and industry, and creating new avenues for businesses to interact with the workforce system. This webinar will be recorded today, and we will also post it to the TPMA YouTube channel, along with the follow-up communication to all the attendees today. So anytime throughout the webinar, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to enter them to the chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end. So let's get started, and we're going to start by introducing our panelists today. And if you all could just briefly tell us who you are and your background related to WIOA and workforce development. And so first on my screen is Audrey Terratonius. So we'll start with you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Audrey Tarantonians, Director of a Workforce Development System in Hospitality Training Academy, which is the training center local arm of Local Hire here 11. I've been in workforce career development for the past 18 years. I started my work doing job development, case management, worked my way up, work in various entity, nonprofit and for-profit entity, working with workforce career development in local and national level. In my previous employer was Equus Workforce Solution, and excited to be part of the panel and talk about what is the future of workforce.
Thank you, Audrey. Thanks for joining us today. Next, we have Terry Lyston.
Well, hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks for asking me to participate in this, Stephanie. Terry Lyston, I'm the president of what we call the Dynamic Brands, and our company represents Dynamic Workforce Solutions, Dynamic Works Institute, and DESI. We operate in job corps centers and workforce centers around the country, and I'm thrilled to be dialing in from Texas today. This is kind of serendipitous, Stephanie, because I had a newborn 30 years ago today, and I started work in this business when my daughter was a newborn. So I think I've reached my 3-decade mark. I don't know if I say that with great pride or with bags under my eyes, but it has been a journey. So I've been doing this business for 30 years. My background is in education. My passion is training up people to serve others. And yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah.
Next, we have Joe Dorian.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Joe Dorian. I'm the State Workforce Director here at the Department of Business Economic Affairs here in the great state of New Hampshire. If you haven't been, great skiing and snowboarding, so please come and spend money. As a state employee, I have to always push that. So tell them Joe sent you. I've been with Workforce about 4 years now, kind of fell into it. Joined the department after working for Governor Chris Sununu, who's the governor of the state of New Hampshire. Before then, U.S. Senator Kelly Ayotte, and did public policy, campaigns, elections, a little bit of nonprofit work. So haven't been in as long as some of the other panelists, but certainly learned a lot, learning more, and appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about what I've learned so far.
Thank you, Joe. Last but certainly not least, we have Jerry Myers.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jerry Myers. I'm the president of In the Door, and very excited to be here. In the Door is a workforce development and economic development firm that is out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we work all over the United States now, so very excited about that. But my background in workforce really started in education. Really, years ago, I worked for DeVry University, and we partnered with many colleges, technical colleges, helping individuals get trained. And from there, 2016, we started In the Door. And it's just been great to be a part of the workforce and economic development work and really seeing how these skills that individuals get change the dynamic of their lives. So like I said, we've been doing this since 2016. We do tons of work with training, with out-of-school youth, adult and dislocated workers. And at the same extent, we have recently started doing a lot of digital literacy training throughout the Atlanta metro area. So extremely excited to be a part of this panel with these awesome individuals as well.
Thank you so much, Jerry. So as you can see, we have a panel full of individuals that are representing from national, regional, state levels. And so we're going to dive right into our questions to kind of hear some of their expertise. So for the few in our audience who may be unfamiliar, what is the significance of the public workforce system and why should others care? Don't all jump at the same time.
I guess I'll jump. I think, I think that's it's a long answer. And I have a tendency to go on and on, as Stephanie and the folks at TPMA know. But I think, the big thing here is, the public workforce system empowers individuals and meets the needs of business. So it's investment in the individual to find their future, to find their passion. It's more than just a paycheck that they get, a sense of community. It's opportunity for upward social mobility, the ability to retire, have healthcare benefits, pass on generational wealth, that sort of stuff, lift folks out of generational poverty or tough circumstances and whatnot. On top of that, it also meets the needs of businesses, in industries. We've all experienced long lines at places that we frequent, the coffee shops, the restaurants. But, on the bigger scale, more important, if, here it's really cold in New Hampshire. It's quite beautiful, but, if my heating system goes, or a hot water heater, you might have to wait a few days. And that could, be difficult, not to mention, public health and safety. We have a shortage of cops, firefighters, but also on the healthcare side, everything from RN to LNA, that sort of thing. So, I mean, I think very quickly it empowers individuals to find their future, and it supports the needs of employers, which is so critical to the economy, but also for the different services that we all enjoy and rely upon.
Absolutely.
I would add the workforce development help businesses to accelerate the talent that they need and address the skills gap that exists within the most vulnerable population. It is a cost-effective way to help individuals that they don't have any other avenue to get into the occupations that they're interested by earning a very fast, accelerated new skills and credential that is going to help them to get into, gaining more experience and earning more money. I would say we often talked about we are the best hidden secret in the community, which we have to break that silo for sure, collectively together. But I would say we do a lot of work, not only in terms of supporting the job seekers and their journey to the next career, but helping the businesses to thrive and help them, creating jobs and opportunity within the communities.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. You guys have hit on some great points. It's really the perfect loop, in my opinion, of how we support community. Businesses need employees, individuals need jobs. How do we work more succinctly to fill both of those needs? And what's really interesting for me along the journey is we get to do some unique upskilling of folks who are employed and maybe have been in the same job for 10 years and want to advance but don't know how, and businesses that maybe can't step up and pay for that training. We have so many unique ways by which to support individuals. We can assist the job seekers, youth to adults to mature workers with a variety of funds. We can help them with subsidizing some of the needs that they have before they start employment, which is incredible. And we can really help remove barriers for individuals so that the barriers don't become the new employer's problem. So we get just a really great way by which to fill these gaps and take two pieces of a puzzle and put them together in a harmony that's really unique. I also say that if you don't know anything about the workforce system, you've been a very fortunate person to not have to lean on the workforce system. So we get to do great work and really provide two sums that make a beautiful relationship that lasts for businesses and for communities and for job seekers.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback. And one of the things I think is really important, and I've heard several individuals already mention the business community. Oftentimes, the business community may want to move into an area where the skilled labor force may not be there, and it becomes a problem. So that bridging that gap and making sure that workforce matches the needs of the business are really important. I know here in our region specifically, we have Rivian that has come out and they're working with a particular county right now in effort to train up some workforce aspects with a technology program they have that I guess is related to their cars. But the point being is that making sure that the individuals are really prepared makes a huge difference. I know from an economic development perspective, from the governor and down, they all care, and we should care as well about making sure that our communities are holistic in that aspect where we have a trained, qualified workforce. And if we don't, the tools like WIOA can be there to help facilitate that aspect to have people draw to those particular areas. So, yeah.
Absolutely. So we definitely know that in our workforce development world that right now, WIOA reauthorization is like the trending topic, right? It's currently trending everywhere, specifically around, our topic today, the innovating and modernizing of the workforce system. So what are your thoughts on the reauthorization and the highlighted trends?
I'll happily start this. My company works in a multitude of states with with a wide range of boards, rural areas, urban areas. And as I mentioned, I've been in this business for a while, so this will be my fourth reauthorization. I should get like the titles tattooed here, I'm feeling. But it's really exciting to me, some of the items that have been pushed forward with the reauthorization. I think we have created some real challenges for ourselves in the way that we bring individuals to the system with a lot of cumbersome eligibility requirements and enrollment requirements. I'm hoping if nothing else moves, that moves forward so we can take the barriers away from people who already have barriers. So I'm excited about that. I'm super excited about work equity. I'm excited about job quality. I'm excited about casting a broader net, serving more people. Simplifying the eligibility component and the digital literacy piece is key. So those are just some initial thoughts. I'd like to see it get some legs here. I'd also like to see upon reauthorization that it takes a shorter amount of time to prop up the new opportunities so we can serve faster, better, stronger. I look at it like if you have a website and it takes you 17 clicks to get what you want, you abandon ship by 5, 3, 2. Let's reduce the number of clicks it takes for someone to get served in a quality way. I think it's going to do wonders for us if we can make that happen. Just a few thoughts.
I see some unmuting.
Yeah, I will add that exactly what Terry mentioned. There is a lot of great component that is going to streamline our eligibility process. Being in WIOA, you can say, it takes a period of time to kind of engage with the participant, having them bring their documentation back to us. So we're adding more barriers and obstacles in front of a job seekers that we are helping them thrive within, the pathways that they want to get in. What I'm more interested is seeing some of the employer engagement and incentives that we're going to create around employer engagement, being in a labor centers and training with a lot of our local, hospitality employers that are union employers. I feel like we can use more of the support within the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act partners with intensifying some of our training program and job seekers with creating good jobs with a benefit, adding those benefit component into as the wage gain. What I'm afraid of, and I'm hoping we collectively can work on it, is like sometimes it's written in a law in one way, and when it gets to the performance indicator, it gets complicated, right? So credential attainment for all individuals are not the same way. We have to start breaking down the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, because there's different learning style. Each barriers add more into the learning styles, and how we're incentivizing individuals that are going through our training with daily stipend to help them achieve their goals. So it's not just attending those training and completing this training while they're going to this training, and we're going to have a major emphasis on the training, how we can support them during that process that they can successfully complete it. And sometimes it can take 2 months, 3 months to complete it. An individual may take 6 months to complete it. So that indicator being a little bit more flexible for our individuals to be able to achieve their goals. And absolutely, Terry, I'm all there for you. The digital literacy. I mean, the next conversation is about the AI, and we have no component in the current system around the digital literacy.
Yeah, what I would suggest, and this is one of the things we've been reading, is just seeing how the industries are evolving. Like our world is evolving, and our economy is evolving fast. So I think when I look at the reauthorization, I think about the evolving aspect of our current climate, our current level of economic development around our country. A couple things that really piqued my interest. Probably because In the Door serves a ton of out-of-school youth, is looking at the whole change to the opportunity youth aspect. One of the things that we see often is this kind of divide between out-of-school youth and in-school youth and things of that nature. But I like the whole aspect of looking at potentially a more blended model that really serves all youth, because we're seeing, we're working, In the Door is currently working with a county now that is having, they have this gap area for people who don't go to technical college, don't go to a traditional university. So it's like, they're graduating and they're not having the potential skills, and it is causing a huge gap, not only within the area, but also in the workforce as well in our current community. So point being, when I look at this, I like the whole aspect of blending that aspect of working with opportunity youth, making sure that the in-school youth are touched, and it's the same way with out-of-school youth, because sometimes you just see a focus in the local areas. And what I'm seeing, having done a lot of work with school systems as well, is that sometimes the in-school youth need some love as well. They need some of the same opportunities, and many of them it creates another pathway that I think would be very valuable. The other thing that is important, I heard the digital literacy aspect mentioned, and I'm a big fan of that. Having done some work with AARP and working with DSR, Digital Skills Ready at 50 plus. But one of the things I really liked about the language in the bill was speaking more so to the evidence-based practices. I think that, as a provider, I think that's really important. Many people they're not focused on what works. And I think it's important, especially within WIOA, to really find strategies that are working to change areas and making sure that all partners are working together is just such an important part. So those are some of the areas I see that are valuable here.
And if I could, interject as well, and I agree to all of that, speaking, I guess, from a perspective of a small state, New Hampshire is approximately 1.4 million 1.4 million people that live in the state of New Hampshire. that many of you are, if you're from a bigger state or representing a local workforce board, you might say, yeah, that's my one local area of many within the state. And I think, it's interesting to see what's been proposed and talked about. Obviously, it's like seeing the sausage made, right? What is proposed or what is thought of initially, what will actually be the end result.
Mhm.
And I think, speaking a little bit more broadly, because I agree with my counterparts here on the panel, but for me, it has to be flexibility. Flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. The WIOA is a great program that changes the lives of so many people each year. And I think there are so many great success stories, success metrics from across the country. Um, I just think flexibility has to be just at the focus of this. It's a federal program, so it's going to be a little clunky, right? It's just the nature of the beast, right? But the whole idea is the Fed's giving us money to run these programs, run them efficiently. And if we take our eye off the ball on flexibility, it makes our jobs a whole lot harder. Rural America, I guess, although kind of we're very close to Boston, so I guess that we get kind of looped in there. But, there's, it's hard because we have to serve a big area. Um, with not a lot of staff, with a lot of regulations and whatnot. So I don't know if there's anybody here that's a member of Congress that's listening. I didn't see the participants, but maximum flexibility to make things easier for administrative ease, to let people into the program in terms of eligibility, but also too in funding. That also has to be, the flexibility of funding. I mean, we're a minimally funded state, which poses challenges for us as well. We're trying to serve a lot of people. So I think also the formula needs to take a little look at as well. But it's interesting to see what's proposed and what will actually be the end result. Which I always love the legislative process, especially here with the state legislature, because you start off with an idea and you never know which way it's going to go. So cautiously optimistic, though.
And Joe, I love that because I think what's going to be critically important is how you invest those dollars, with dollars not being what they were 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. For most people, if there's 2 or 3 really critical things that a board area wants to do or a state wants to do, they should be allowed to do it. I think what we do is we try to dice this up in such small amounts that really the expertise gets diluted. So I'm with you on that. I think that'd be an incredible, keep pushing that local control and local ideas and flexibility. I think that'd be amazing.
And I mean, states are the laboratories of innovation. I mean, that's the whole concept.
Exactly.
And give us the flexibility there. And not to say don't hold us accountable. I want to be held accountable. I love accountability measures. It's great. I want to meet them. I want to exceed them. But we just need to be careful what we're prescribing, and how we do it. So when I first came into this role, my boss said, "Oh, there's not a whole lot of flexibility here with WIOA. So, you're not going to be able to do a whole lot new." And I said, "Okay, well, we'll see about that." And I have to give credit to USDOL here in Region 1. They've been great to work with. But it's something that I'd love to see across the board as well. Not to say that other regions aren't, but something that's kind of codified in a little bit more black and white, so to speak.
Thank you. So we know that you are coming to us from different regions across the country. And so I'm just curious about what innovations you have seen in your workspace that has been proven beneficial for the staff, the job seekers, and the employers. Terry, I think you kind of probably have the most unique perspective coming from DWFS, having, platforms kind of pretty much across the nation. So just interested in knowing like what innovations you all have kind of seen.
Yeah, that's a really great question. It sort of almost bleeds into the AI because, technology is one thing, innovation is one thing, and AI is a whole separate endeavor. If you'll remember, it wasn't 3 years ago that we couldn't use electronic signatures in all places. So we've come a long way. And so I think, a lot of things we had a lot of forced innovations through the pandemic because we wanted to serve people. We couldn't serve people the way we were used to. Presently, we employ around 600 individuals who provide services under WIOA and some other funds. And I think that the pendulum swings interestingly enough, both ways when it comes to innovation. The solution isn't all being, modernized and using technology to onboard staff, for example. I'm a big staff person who believes in giving the staff the opportunity to succeed and give them the tools that they need. We have redone our onboarding and training of staff multiple times over the last several years. Why? We have a very low turnover rate, and we've taken the time to try to figure out how do we train people generally in the system. We think about job-specific skills, and you're doing enrollment and this, that, and the other, and that's what you need to be a specialist in. I have news for you. Not all offices have 30 staff and, hundreds of people walking in. Am I right, Joe? I mean, not everybody can be in Atlanta, Jerry. You know what I'm saying? So we have had to really bend, and it doesn't sound like it's really innovative, but it really is. One of the things we've implemented is as a staff at a station twice annually of what they know and what they don't know on their job. It changes like on a dime. So we have the ability to say to them, hey, red, green, yellow, where are you lost? Let us help you get reestablished in those skills. We have to create a career pathway for our people too, or we'll lose them. So it doesn't sound sparkly and new, but investing efforts in getting staff who engage with customers up to speed on all those things, like being a good career coach, being a good motivational interviewer, learning how to deal with individuals with different challenges. That's a full-time gig, just getting our arms around that. I also want to say, one of the cool things we've done is really wrap our arms around career coaching. We have a project going on right now that we're working with individuals who are not born in the US, who are trying to acclimate to our world here and get to work. And we are doing career coaching with them virtually on a weekly basis and have seen incredible things happen. Not everyone needs that, but for those that do, we've really amped that up and saw some great results.
Thank you. Curious, Joe, what about in New Hampshire?
Well, it's thank you for setting me up. I think you've heard a lot of my stump speech already as we're working together on the state plan stuff, which you all are just terrific. We as state have some funny little problems. We have some of the lowest unemployment rates in the country, no big deal, consistent across the board. But we have a lower than what we would want in terms of labor force participation. And so we have world-renowned employers, companies like Lindt Chocolate. They've got the North American headquarters, which I've toured. Phenomenal. It's like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I'm losing my point. But we have amazing employers here in the state of New Hampshire that have dynamic needs that are rapidly trying to grow. So we try to look at programs of how do we engage folks who are, back to an earlier point, we're the best kept secret. How do we expand the pool? How do we reach out to new people that haven't been involved with the workforce system, but other government programs? So one program that we put together is called the VIP program, Vibrant, Inclusive, and Prosperous program, which does direct outreach to historically marginalized populations here in the state. New Hampshire isn't the most diverse state in the country. We're about 11%. If certainly you probably hear about that around the New Hampshire primary time, which we just had that happen here, which was great for the economy and whatnot. And now my phone isn't being blown up all the time, which is wonderful. But we are doing direct outreach to historically marginalized populations to get them involved in the workforce system, to the point where we have about 30% of our enrollments in our adult program are now members of or are coming from this VIP effort. So 30% coming from these diverse communities, historically marginalized communities, where the percentage population here is 11%. And it's been an amazing program. We're also using some of our, and those are from WIOA adult funds, which we didn't know if we could actually do. So we worked with the feds on that, which was awesome. They were very helpful on that. It's been wildly successful. Our adult programs have blown out our enrollment goal the past 2 years, which is awesome. Not only for the individuals, but for the economy and those businesses that we're helping. And then as I have a tendency to go on and on, one other program I'll mention that we just started is working with foster and adoptive care youth who did not find permanent placement, with enhanced case management service and employment services. So helping these kids, these young men and women, who weren't adopted, didn't find that permanent placement. How do they then, go on to their adult lives, learning a trade, getting into a high demand occupation that has high growth, that has good wages and whatnot, and help them set them up for a pathway for success. And that population, we're talking about serving like 30 to 40 individuals, but we're serving 30 to 40 of the most vulnerable individuals coming from really, really tough circumstances. So our focus here is how do we use the dollars that we have creatively to make an impact? And when that period of performance ends, actually they're using it as a pilot where they're actually going to fundraise and continue that program going. So we're building a bridge beyond the end of the federal funding, because throwing money at something just to have it go away doesn't do anything if it doesn't have legs to continue. So even on the VIP stuff, that's going to continue as well, because we built those relationships with community partners. So for us, it's how do we get out there? How do we push the boundaries to not talk in an echo chamber, go to the same well for the same people over and over again, whatever metaphor or whatever you'd like to, figure of speech you'd like to use. So that's our goal, is how do we get out there, do things a little bit differently and shake things up. So we've had really great successes. The success story, I'm a tough guy. So, when I read these success stories, I certainly don't tear up or anything like that. And every year we do a panel at our state workforce innovation board, our statewide board, where we actually do a panel and we show the board not only our performance metrics throughout the year, but an opportunity to meet them face to face, to hear their stories. And it makes it all worth it. It's just awesome. So sorry, Stephanie, you know me, I go
No,
off
you're
on
good.
tangents, so I'll mute myself, but thank you for the question.
Absolutely. So, Audrey and Jerry, with you all, in what ways do you feel like WIOA funding can be utilized in kind of developing and implementing some of the new modernizations within workforce?
Janae?
A great question. Let me just tell you a little bit about how we are funded. So we are a labor union training center. We have 170 plus contributing employer, Taft-Hartley funded. We are an apprenticeship program approved by Department of Labor and state programs, which allows us to be an eligible training provider, being an eligible training providers list, and we self-fund ourselves, and through that Taft-Hartley fund also get a lot of fundraising and also grants that can sustain it. Now, what we decided to do is focusing on the marginalized population that are very much WIOA population come to our training center. We pretty much have 100% placement rate with a lot of retention that, we have alumni group that always come back to us to take more training. So we have a whole division that has that employer relationship for incumbent workers training that allows us to keep that relationship and open the door for a lot of new opportunities for the new job seekers that have zero training and culinary programs. So our prep cook, bartender training, room attendance training, our individual had zero background in any of the hospitality and training. And through transformation of 8 to 20 weeks, we see how they graduate. And we don't just graduate any individuals just because they want to graduate, but we make sure that our employers are actually interviewing within a class, they get a job offer. So what we have done, we created our own career counseling group. Our WIOA partner are pretty much co-located with us. They come to our centers, they co-enroll the participant to us, they're engaged through the process. So that human-centric approach that WIOA has, we take it upon our own center. We make sure throughout the way, if a job seeker doesn't have a bus pass, they have a childcare issue, those conversations are happening through WIOA and having a conversation. Meantime, diversifying our funding, bringing eligible, employer training panel list. Recently we got selected by Department of Labor to be part of the critical sector, expanding, being and one of a kind of a training in non-traditional apprenticeship program to expand in other states. That's all capacity building, right? How we're capacity building is partnering up with Workforce Development Board, partnering up with a lot of community-based organizations that serve the marginalized population, and partnering up with, WIOA providers such as Dynamic Works, Echo's Workforce Solution, any other agency that we can support the job seeker through the process. Well, AI is a component that is not yet within the hospitality sector, but is coming. But we're thinking about how that AI can not replace the human aspect, but can augment the support and the customer service side of it, right? So it's a very interesting topic, which we're trying to make sure that we have that keep upfront with our employers and conversation, getting ready in Los Angeles, as you guys know, for World Cup and Olympics and all that great things that are going to come in Los Angeles. We need to produce a lot of talents. We need to train a lot of talents. So we need WIOA partners. They are going to be our main partners within any area that we go to support us within the case management, career advising, and wraparound services.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Stephanie, one of the things that I'm seeing that I think as far as modernization, and I heard, I think Adrienne mentioned the human-centered design. One of the things that we're doing right now is really focusing on evaluating data to make sure that our customers are getting through the process. One of the things that Joseph mentioned was something, I don't want to say red tape, but it's making sure that we're flexible as far as helping our customers get through the process and being able to work with businesses as well, because sometimes some of those same inflexibilities are the things that impact businesses from working and getting the most efficiency out of working with WIOA. So with that being said, some of the things that we're doing is really taking a deep dive on the data and analysis and focusing on the customer experience down to how fast are they getting through the intake and eligibility process. That's kind of like one of our target areas that we've been kind of looking at in effort to make sure that these customers are really getting experience, no matter what age group, no matter what demographic. They're getting the same level of service, and we're also focusing, as part of modernization to me, is making sure that we're for the individuals that maybe want more technology, having access to that. But for the individuals who step into our American Job Centers, we don't have to push the technology at them as well. We have a few ways to serve individuals. One of the other things I'll mention too is that since we do have a change in workforce, and I know mental health services have been a component around the country, we are putting kind of together lists to go after grants and other blended, braided funding efforts in effort to obtain services that can help individuals, because sometimes our local case manager, especially with WIOA, they may not have the expertise to deal with somebody who has in the middle of a mental health crisis, and those type of things impact employment. I mean, oftentimes we've had situations. We've been very blessed recently, but we've had a string of guys that have done really well, and once you have a group of men and ladies who go out and do well, they are really selling the WIOA program back to these employers. But at the same extent, if we have somebody that's really not in a position to, from a mental perspective, to go into work with an employer, we're kind of doing a disservice. And all it takes is for one scenario, one situation to take place, and suddenly that employer says, you know what? I'm not going to work with that particular American Job Center in this county or in this local area. So we kind of don't want to be counterproductive in that end. So those are the things that we're seeing, is really focusing on the human-centered design and making sure that we have an array of mental health resources, because that's our modern workforce right now. It's needed.
Thank you. So there's been a few mentions already around AI, right? So AI is like the buzzword everywhere. So how do you see AI being incorporated into the modernization of the system? Or do you already have any examples of innovative ways in which AI has already been incorporated? And Jerry, you're on my screen, so I'm gonna throw it right to you.
Okay, great. I thank you for that. As far as AI, I mean, we're seeing it in a couple different ways. I know there are systems now that are helping to do resume writing on AI, and it could be very quick. Obviously, most of us probably, I would imagine everybody watching may be on Chat GPT or whatnot at this point. But if you're not, that's a great tool to assist. I mean, years ago, we had other online tools, but ChatGPT is a great one to help build out the resume aspect. But we're also seeing more interactive type interview processes. I'm not sure about you guys, but you may have seen different software that's come out now where individuals can actually interview and you can get graded on how well you interviewed. So from the local level of being a job seeker going to get employed, that's how we're kind of seeing AI blend in. But I think what I see coming in the future that may be good or bad for job seekers is I also see the company aspect that where HR is starting to use AI and they're using it as a measuring tool. So years ago, it was, I remember back in like 2013, 2014, it was like making sure you have the right keywords to make sure you get into that search. Well, today you have AI that's actually making sure that they can measure people and then they can send the most I would say close in match to the HR professional. And that those are things that we didn't see happening before. So it could also exclude some individuals. So I think it's going to be a harder time for job seekers, potentially as AI continues to get smarter. But at the same extent, I think it can be a tool to kind of upskill individuals as well. So, those are the things that we're seeing. Oh, one last thing is maybe matching, and we've seen these talent builders that are used, especially for youth and individuals that are dislocated workers. But I think we're going to see more of a stronger type AI that comes out in effort to help match the talent to make sure that they get people to the right individual job seekers. So that's what we're seeing.
Terry, have you seen any examples of AI that's already been incorporated around any of the programs that you all are operating?
Yeah, I think this is so interesting because when we first started having conversation with AI with our team, there was a definite disconnect between AI and things we need for technology. Like, for example, can we just have an auto upload into a state system that this person has their social security number? I'm just giving that as an example. That's not AI, right? So we have needs that are before AI. However, there are some really cool things we're talking about. Like, I've always been a firm believer, in many cases, there's no I in IEP, meaning the person that wrote it had nothing to do with it, right? It's the person on the end that's taking the notes and all those other things. I've always thought about, it would be amazing if a customer could actively use AI to write their own IEP and do their own case notes for that matter. There's something there, that person can tell the story. I've often told the story of my kids when they had braces. They would go in and essentially do their own medical notes when they checked in. I'm like, look, if you can say that your incisor is bothering you and you can point to the tooth and tell me, and that folds into a medical note, like, how can we use information that people self-report, to take away some of that busy work that eats up our time? The other thing is, if you all have seen or know about CarMax or some of those companies, somebody I work with said, hey, you go and you buy a CarMax, and the next thing you get is this email that comes and says, hey, you just bought this red Toyota. Look at you in the red Toyota. And it's a person that looks like me driving a red Toyota. This will be sitting in your driveway at XYZ address in 30 days. Can't wait till you get your new Toyota, right? Couldn't we help people vision their careers? Couldn't we do some interesting things to plant some seeds that maybe they can't see in themselves? So anyway, lots of things we're talking about, and taking baby steps, I think, Stephanie. So we'll see how quickly we can implement things as a system.
So we have a couple of comments. So it looks like we have some feedback There's some job seekers that are enjoying using Yoti for interview practice. It makes it easier for them to send their practice video for review and feedback. And also looks like there's an area that is in the process of developing an AI chatbot that can respond to questions regarding services, eligibility requirements, and business services, and more. And those are all great examples of how AI could be incorporated in. I am curious, Audrey, to hear in your space around the training provider side, what that would look like for AI incorporation.
Absolutely. I would say in our industry, it's hard to say there is an AI component that is going to affect the hospitality, that there is like our cook, right? They do hands-on training, they're 180 hours of their training, pretty much over 170 of it is just working on, literally cutting the meats and, making dishes and stuff. What we are seeing as potentially can be, have an effect is our, front desk trainings, right? How that being automated. As you can see, if you go to the hotels, there's a lot of keyless check-ins now, right? How is that going to impact, in terms of your room attendants only had 32 minutes. Remember, 32 minutes to clean that room for the next person coming in. Now, with all this automate checking in, and then with keyless checking into your room, how is that impacting the room attendance training, and how is that going to impact in terms of making the scheduling work? So we're getting closer to the kind of considering some of this AI training. We are working on emphasizing on some of the preparation, as some of the folks on the chat mentioned, on interviewing skills. And it's a great tool for interview with chat GPT, and kind of grade yourself of how you're doing the interviews. So it's going to be interesting to look at some non-English speakers through the AI, because that's a whole another equity kind of a concept that we have to address, and capability and digital literacy. But we know that in our industry, more and more, more customers, they want to have less interaction in a front desk kind of a component. They still love to see their server. They still love to see their cook their dishes, and not any robots yet, right? Any AI component, but that front desk is definitely being affected.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we do have a question, panelists. So it says the Stronger Workforce for America Act, as currently written, has a 50% training requirement that will make it difficult to maintain career coaching, which is important to the success of job seekers. How do you see this affecting? And I'll pitch this over to Joe.
Well, I like to go back to my original comments talking about flexibility, and certainly appreciate, the feds and all that they know. But, I think giving us, the absolute flexibility to manage these dollars, it only makes for a better program. And I understand having some, guardrails to ensure that states and local boards are acting in good faith, and not, utilizing monies in ways that they shouldn't. But I think it goes back to my earlier point about flexibility, finding administrative ease. And I don't particularly love that. But like I said earlier, what's been proposed versus what actually becomes law is a lot of times two completely different things. But I think that, the folks that work in these local offices, the people that run the programs on the ground, they know that they should have a little bit more trust, I guess, and so that, I guess that's what I would say to that. I'm trying to be very careful here, because again, I'm trying to stay cautiously optimistic with things. But again, I think if we're and you're like, yeah, dude, we get it, flexibility, but it's something that I think we all need to embrace, because our population here in New Hampshire, that we work with is very different than, Jerry's population in Atlanta or Terry's in Texas or Adrina's in California. I mean, there are different needs, so I just think we can't lose sight of that. So I'm sorry, it was a very vague answer, but flexibility.
No, I love your answer. And I'm going to jump in here, Stephanie, because, the individual needs of people that we serve are vast, and the needs of employers are vast. And at the end of the day, we have to have a return on investment. And when we have things that are mandated that don't fit the customer base on both sides of that coin, it forces us to cut corners and do things in a way that aren't extraordinary. And then we get into a routine, and then we get just standardization. And so I'm with you 100% on that, Joe. And I think that, one of the things that we've got to be mindful of is, let's say it is a 50% training. Maybe the local area can say, of the 50% training, we're going to carve out X amount for people to support the people in the training. So that's my cross my fingers opportunity. Jerry talked about mental health needs and those sorts of things. It's real. And, we've got to, we don't want to have a revolving door here of people that we serve or employers that we serve. So yeah, I'm going to amen you right there.
Stephanie, if I may, sorry.
Go ahead, Anjanae. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, one of the most challenges, which is by this 50% needs to be addressed, is everybody needs to have enough eligible training providers on their local list in order to spend that 50% of the funding to begin with. In California, for almost 7 years, through the SB 734, we allocated 30% of that fund of our total funds to training, which 20% was WIOA, and you could leverage 10% of it. Well, year after year, the cost of living increased, the cost of training increased, and the funding level didn't increase, which then affected us hiring individuals or not giving cost of living increases for our career advisor, which brings down the talent, and kind of you have a lot of turnovers. You have individuals that, leaving just because of, they've been at, $24 per hour since 2009 and 2007. So this is a topic that is we have to carefully review it, defining it. Terry, I love what you said in terms of how is that 50% being allocated? Is it OJT, for example? Then there's a contribution side of it from employers that can be leveraged. Is it incumbent workers training that is going to allow us to help employers better, but give us credential as well, because we don't currently get credential attainment in our incumbent worker training in WIOA. So I think this is a broader conversation, because the cap on the funding for the state is not increasing year after year, and actually decreasing sometimes. And we're going to have a major impact in our front line and quality of our services to begin with.
Jerry, I think you had something to add.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just piggybacking off what was said, but I think case management is essential. And to that point, if the funds decrease in that area, I mean, I've not done case management, but I have watched case managers for years, and I know that it is one of the hardest jobs that one must be extremely passionate about to guide somebody through a complete life change, mitigating all the barriers that are surrounding them. So my point being is I totally agree that I think you can't, I don't think it's a great idea to have a stringent gap on, a stringent cap on that 50%. And to Terry's point, if it's something that can be allocated in a way that it still allows for the right infrastructure on the front line, I think that's the best way. But shout out to all the case managers, because it's the hardest work ever. And thank you for what you do.
Stephanie, can I add something else in? Because I can never miss an opportunity. I mean, I guess if anyone from the Biden-Harris administration is on here, I mean, you got 5 people here that are willing to, to chat. But, I saw a comment come up, about the funding and, how it hasn't always been fully funded or whatnot. And, for me, from a smaller state perspective and maybe even a smaller local board, is the consistency of funding and, having an idea of how much, because, if you're going to put these requirements and how much we have to spend and do that, it gets awfully hard to budget and figure out resources and what to do. But there's a lot of competitive grants that come out, and frankly, they more often than not get gobbled up by the bigger states that have larger grant writing teams. And I wish we had that, but we're trying to do more. And as somebody said, we're trying to do more with less. I mean, the dollar ain't what it used to be. Certainly, we've seen like our return on investment on things. It used to be for every one WIOA dollar, we get 3 back in the economy here. Now it's 1 for 2 because the cost of training is skyrocketed. People need more supportive services. We're trying, people are trying to pay their case managers more so they don't walk and, go work at Target to make more money and get that 10% discount. And, I thought about becoming a CDL trucker at one point, because I'm like, geez, they're making way more money. And, the open road sounds pretty good. So, I think funding, if the feds are going to start prescribing 50% this, 20% that, whatever, give us the fully fund it, give us the consistent funding so that we can at least plan for it, I guess is what I'm saying. So sorry to kind of jump in.
No, thank you. So we are coming up towards the end of our hour. And so I want to see if any of you have any like final thoughts that you would like to leave with the audience today. Joe, you're on the screen. So if you want to start.
I think I'm sorry if I've talked a little bit too much. I appreciate the patience of the panelists. Certainly I've learned quite a bit, but I think, it's a great opportunity, hopefully, the legislation turns out in a way that kind of, a good deal when everybody's a little bit upset. So I hope that when it passes, everybody's a little bit upset because then that we've got a good deal. But, we'll adjust, we'll make it work. And that's, that's all. But it's great to be with you all and certainly hope to meet you in person one of these days.
Audrey?
No, I'm excited to see what the future is going to be, but I would tell it takes, as you see the diverse panelists here, it takes this diverse partnership to make things work. So let's stick together collectively. Let's do this work collectively because we are not accidentally didn't fall in this occupation. We have kind of selected to be part of this. So I think it requires a special heart, and I'm excited to seeing what the future is going to bring for all of us.
Thank you. Terry?
Thanks again for the opportunity to be here. Thanks, panelists. Great getting to know you. I wanted to say what we're doing here is what we should be doing in every single region across this country, putting passionate people together about serving the community, getting feedback from everyone. You've got service provider, you've got an expert in youth services, you've got training provider, you've got a workforce leader. Like, if we can have this conversation civilly and talk about what matters in communities, we're in a good place. So let's just keep doing this. Thanks.
All right, Jerry.
Yeah, well, I'm with everybody else. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And a couple of things I'll leave you with is, number one, we have to be willing to embrace change. So, I mean, whatever happens, we know some changes are taking place very shortly. So we're going to have to work on adapt. I heard the word resiliency earlier. We have to be willing to leverage the technology. I mean, there's a ton of technology out. I saw some great comments on the chat. Leverage that and prioritize collaboration. That's one of the things that we're focusing on. I know many other regions are doing the same, is we have to prioritize collaboration because I think where workforce is going, we're going to need that. Thank you very much today.
Thank you so much, panelists, for participating today. Really, our goal today was kind of get the synergy moving around the WIOA authorization and really start having these conversations and just kind of bring forth, get a feeling for how everyone's feeling in different aspects of the workforce development world. And so I truly appreciate everyone's participation. And that is all. Again, thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.